child comes to you looking for a toy, you don't give him a gun. And that's what we have done. In the name of religions, we have given them guns.
Hatred.
Hatred is not something that can be given as an answer from the religious leaders. And that's exactly what has happened. So we have to dump these religions completely. And we have to have a better definition of a religion. So knowing the unknowable requires to stay here, not run anywhere, not run towards it, and not run away from it. We have to accept everything in totality. Whatever inside desires come up are fine, welcome. Your desire for food, your hunger is welcome. But when you go beyond is a problem. But that, you have to decide that. And you can decide it only when you start realizing and analyzing your actions. Run it as a scientific experiment. What am I doing? When I start eating and my hunger is satisfied, what happens to me after that? Am I going beyond because of the pleasure, or is it something still necessary for my body? You start analyzing yourself and you will find it yourself. The question you ask and the answer you give yourself. Nobody will give you. But that requires observation. That requires mindfulness. And mindfulness is meditation. In meditation, you analyze your own actions. And then you get the answers. And that defines your next day's behavior. If not next day, the third day or the fourth day. But you be the judge. Instead of me telling you, don't do this, don't do that, it doesn't happen. It does not happen until you believe that it's wrong. Until you believe it's wrong, it's going to keep on going because you believe it's right. So your beliefs is what matters, and your beliefs are the one you have to shatter. No one else can do it for you. No matter how much I tell you this is wrong, until you believe this is wrong, you're not going to change. So why waste energy in asking even anybody what is wrong and what's not? You ask yourself. So mindfulness, meditation, going within is the journey you have to take to know the unknowable. So running requires the goal, requires the energy, and lot of energy is being wasted. All that energy could have been employed to know the Paramatma. If all that energy could have been saved by running after the indulgences of the sensual possessions and sensual things of pleasure, or running away from it and running after all this, being like I am a Jain or a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian, all these things could have been saved. We could have reached to Paramatma. We could have a beautiful, balanced state of all the society. We could have a really pleasurable life for us and for children to come and the next generation to come. But we have missed that chance. We still have not missed the chance. We still can do it. So running towards something is wrong and running away from something is wrong. We quoted that example once. We talked about that some local senior citizens went to the psych hospital and wanted to have sympathize with the psychiatric patients. They were there, and so they went on the rounds with the psychiatrist, and psychiatrists introduced different patients and gave their background. So what's going on with this patient and what's going on with these patients, and they felt that maybe we can do something for them so they get a little relief. So they came across the first guy who was running, he was crying and sitting quietly in the corner and was holding on to a statue of a female and was crying and crying and crying. He said, what's going on with him? He says, well, he wanted to marry a girl and he could not. So then he's been carrying this because the society would not permit, and then he's suffering. So, and he thinks that that's his girlfriend that he wanted to marry. So he's crying. He said, oh, we are so sorry about that. Maybe we'll spend, use a couple of, people to sit and have a little time with him so he feels comfortable. So they go to the next room, and they said another guy was crying and shouting and angry and this and that and all. He says, what's the matter with him? He says, the girl that guy could not marry, he married that girl. and he's happy and he's crazy. I mean, he's not happy and he's crazy and angry because he married that girl. So same girl. Two lives are lost because of one girl. But it's not because of the girl. It was because of their desires for the girls. So it's again, so whether you're running towards indulgences or you're running away, either way, the indulgences are in your mind. We don't realize that. Whether you're running towards something or you're running away from something, that something is in your mind. Whether you're running towards a woman or you're running away from a woman, woman is still in your mind. You have not left the material world. So that is the message that we have to learn, that there is a third way. So there was another story of a jail where the two criminals which were going to be hanged next day. So a minister from the church comes in and to talk to those people as in the last moments, if you want to do any kind of repentance, or so that at least you can have a safe journey to, and hopefully to heaven, or to be a better person in the next life and things like that. So they go to the first guy, and the guy had been criminal, had done so many crazy things, wrong things in life, and all the sins that he had committed, and so he goes to him and he says, do you feel sorry for all the things that you have done? So maybe God can accept you, and maybe you can have a better life. So he says, yes, I'm very sorry for all the bad things I have done, and I must have caused a lot of damage to a lot of families, and I really am sorry for that, and hopefully I will get a better chance in next life. And so he, the minister gives him the blessings, and he moves on to the next cell. And the next cell, actually there was another minister, and he was caught not for the sins or anything, but maybe for a political reason. And so he goes to this young priest who had come, talks to him, and he says, if you have to say anything, if you feel sorry for anything, if you have done anything. He says, I feel sorry not for the sins that I have committed or anything, but I feel sorry that I could not commit those sins that I could have and I did not. So I give you an advice that don't be such a lousy guy. Enjoy your life and commit some sins that at the end of life you can say that I enjoyed those sins. So sins that commit is also sorry, and the sins that who does not commit those sins is also sorry. Both the people are thinking of the sins and nothing else. So their minds are occupied after the objects of the pleasure. One who ran away from it all his life, and one who indulged himself in life, both the people missed the message of life. Running towards something is wrong. Running away from anything is wrong. So the same sins which one was sorry for committing and another one was sorry for missing to commit, either way both were unhappy. The real happiness is in realizing that there is nothing to gain and nothing to lose in this world. There is a better pleasure here and right now, not in the future, not in the swarga or narka or moksha or nirvana. It's here. So life gives you two choices. One is to enjoy it to the max, and another is to run away from it. But both the choices are wrong. There is a third choice. Sansar will destroy you, but sannyas also can destroy you. So, is there any other way? There is another way, right? So, before we move to that way, let's try to analyze why indulging in the pleasures of life destroys us. Why? Why do we remain always dissatisfied? If we were satisfied, we would have stopped running, right? Who stops running? Till dying. Who stops running? Nobody does. Once you have something, then something else comes up. And everybody keeps on running till the last moments of life. Sikandar did. Alexander did. Andrew Carnegie was one of the richest guys. Did. Rockefeller did. Everybody died dissatisfied. Everybody had empty mind. Alexander kept his hands outside his effigy, making it a point for the people to realize that he is dying empty-handed. Andrew Carnegie was one of the steel magnate of America. When he died, and Rockefeller, both the people, they had dissatisfaction. They were very unhappy because the way they created their empires. Because Andrew Carnegie always had labor unrest because he wanted to give very minimal wages to his employees, and they had a labor unrest all the time. And he knew inside that he was doing it wrong, but that was the way he became rich. Not one of the ways, but at least at the end of life, they both were dissatisfied. They were unhappy the way they treated life. So all the money that they had still did not give them satisfaction. So why is it that no matter how much we accumulate, it never makes it there? What is the wrong thing about it? At the moment you think that indulging gives you a sense of pleasure, but then the next day you want more. Why is that? Even a tiniest corner of your mind does not get satisfied on a perpetual basis. That, okay, I have done this much, say 10% or 1% or 2%. At least you have a hope that more indulgence will ultimately somewhere along the line give you 100% satisfaction. But it doesn't. You always feel empty inside. And people's experiences tells us that people remain dissatisfied. And what do the dissatisfied people do? To generate the circumstances so they can have more of what they think will give them satisfaction. And when I am important, you are not important, obviously. In the life of matter, in the material world, it's me or you. Cannot be both. If I want to make money out of you, the plain truth is I have to make money out of you. So I become more important than you. There is no equal sharing, nothing like that. Or definitely not you making more than me, because I am alive. So dissatisfied mind creates more and more egos, and to maintain that ego, some other egos has to go down. If Alexander wanted to win the whole world and create a big empires, imagine how many egos he crushed. Imagine how many innocent people who were trying to make a decent living, to make a living for their wife, for their have children, have a small hut, or whatever may be the case. They wanted to live a peaceful, happy life, grow some grains, feed their animals, feed themselves, and die peacefully. That ego and multiply millions of times. One ego had to crush millions and millions and millions of egos to survive. And that's how it is. Ego is spiritual. But is it? It's not. It's material. And if there is a pie, X amount of people can feed from it. If I want to eat more, other people have to eat less. There is no question about it. Same thing is of the ego. One ego has to win, another ego has to lose. That's a simple thing. So if a dissatisfied mind wants to live in this society, somebody has to suffer. So dissatisfied mind is the problem. So satisfaction at the mind level would change all these things. If we analyze all the behaviors of thousands and millions of people over the life history of a humankind, you can tell one ego of Hitler cost billions and billions of people's lives. Not just the millions of Jews, but how many people were displaced and how many people had died and all those things. The damage that has been caused is out of proportion that you can even imagine. So mind is the cause of suffering. And in the same time, who remains happy at the end of life? Was Hitler happy? No, he committed suicide. He wasn't happy either. So dissatisfied mind is the cause of suffering for yourself and for the rest of the world. So the goal is to have a satisfied and happy mind. That can happen only by knowing the unknowable, reaching the Paramatma, having the bliss in life. So we keep on asking for more and more and more. Nobody's mind gets satisfied ever by doing anything outside in the material world. If you eat one gulab jambu, next day you want more, or two, or three. Eating anything or eating wrong things again generates more and more fuels, more desire to have more and more of those things. It becomes a vritti, it becomes a vasana, it becomes a predictable thing. When you do something, you know for sure the next day that thing is also going to give me the pleasure because it did yesterday and tomorrow and the day after. It goes on and becomes your behavior. And then it becomes so deeply ridden into you that you cannot even come out. Like a train, it just goes on those tracks. It cannot think of taking anything, stop for a beautiful sight or nothing like that. Your life becomes a channel that the life just gets stuck in it. So mind keeps on looking for things all the time. There was a story once, a fakir went to a king's palace, and he had a begging bowl in his hands, and he asked the king that, can you give me something? He says, well, you are the first person for the begging today, so I'll give you whatever you want. He says, think before you tell me that promise. He says, because he said, no, your bowl is not that big, I can give you. He says, I have a very small request, that just fill it up, that's all. And whatever you fill it up with, it doesn't matter to me. And kings' egos are kings' egos. He says, if that's the case, I take it as a challenge. Instead of giving you just food, I'll fill it up with rubies and jewels and diamonds, because I have so much of it. So he put it in, disappeared. He put more in, disappeared. It will never got filled. And the king was getting more and more upset. By the end of the day, it went on for all day long, and that begging bowl never got filled. So more and more people came from whole town, gathered to see that spectacle. And what kind of begging bowl is this? And of course, king was perspiring because all his earnings and all these riches and everything was disappearing in that small begging bowl. And finally, king's ego had died down, and he says, I'm really sorry. I don't have anything more to give you. So the monk said, I wish you had told me right from the beginning. I would have gone. I didn't want anything, but you wanted to prove yourself that you can do this. He says, I'm really sorry, but before you leave, tell me the secret. What is behind this begging bowl that it never fills? He said, well, there is no secret to it. Once I was in a graveyard, I stumbled across a human skull, and I made a begging bowl out of that. The human mind never fills up. Mind is like an open,
very nice.
It's an open well. It just keeps accumulating more and more and more. It never gets filled. So the human mind is like that. It keeps on asking, it never gets satisfied.
It's never enough.
Never enough, never enough, never enough. So that was the secret. So once a fakir goes to same thing. Now this we're talking about from the monk point of view. And of course, world's biggest egos are not enough, or your efforts are not enough to fill up a small human mind. Looking at the other end, what happens is there was a fakir who went to Akbar's palace because somebody told him that you go to him all the time. Next time you go him, maybe he can build a small school in our village. So maybe you can talk to him on behalf of us because we don't know him that well. So he says, yeah, no problem. I'll go there and I'll ask from Akbar, the king or the emperor. So when he went there, Akbar was doing a namaz and he was worshipping to God. And when he was listening to Akbar, Akbar was praying to God that, please make my people more and more happy, expand my riches, give me more money so I can do more things. And he went on saying, fakir turned around and he started walking away. And as he was walking away, Akbar came out of namaz and he says, why? Are you going to leave without asking for anything? He says that I came to a wrong guy. He said, I'm a fakir looking for something. You are an emperor, you're looking for something. We both are beggars. You're not a king. If whatever you are asking from, I would rather go to him and ask from him. Why do I need you as a middleman? You are nothing. So beggars are beggars. Emperors are beggars too. Everybody wants something. Just because you accumulate anything, just because you become rich, does not mean the beggar in you is dead. The beggar in you is always alive. And that's where the problem is. The beggarship is a problem. Dissatisfied mind is a problem because it leads to myriads of problems. If I want certain thing in my life, I am going to do certain thing at the sacrifice of my family, at the sacrifice of my time with my children, at the sacrifice of my employees' wishes or their respect, whatever it takes. Or Andrew Carnegie's, I won't care how much they make as long as I can achieve what I want. So many things can go wrong with a dissatisfied mind. But that's the reality. Mind never gets satisfied. So fakirs are begging and kings are also begging. There are beggars everywhere. There are two kinds of beggars. One who has nothing and another who has everything and is still a beggar. So from the time you start with point A in life to the end of point B in your life, analyze what did you do other than begging.